Here's principle number 1. Simply hold the highest thought in other people. Let me explain. We assume that everyone sees life the same way that we do. But the truth is that each personality type has different motivations and needs. So if you're a D, you naturally go through life assuming that everyone values speed and achieving goals and being decisive. If you're an I, you probably assume that everyone values being chatty and talking about your ideas and being casual with time. If you're an S, you assume that everyone really values very smooth interpersonal relationships. And if you're a C, you probably assume that everyone values accuracy and thoroughness and being precise. But that's not true. That's just the lens that you see life through. Others aren't bad just because they're different from us. So give them the benefit of the doubt. We tend to vilify people who are different from us. When people act in ways that are inappropriate to our personality type, our respect for them drops. When a D feels like their time is wasted by an I, to the D, that I just becomes a non-credible person. I have no respect for that person. If they can't respect my time, if they can't show up on time, that person has no credibility with me. It becomes where they're not just different, but they're evil or maybe evil. I don't want to have anything to do with someone who's evil. That's a non-credible person. That's what we tend to do. Or when an S finds himself in conflict with a D, the S says, that D is not a credible person. I don't want to have anything to do with them. They're bad. I just want to gossip about them. I don't want to be in relationship with them. Or when an I is forced into following strict procedures by the C, the I just feels like that C has no credibility. That person is just a picky jerk. They're evil. They're evil. This is what we tend to do. And hold the highest thought just says, give people the benefit of the doubt. They're not evil. They're just different from you. So hold the highest thought. Principle number 2, either you control your personality or it will control you. Controlling your personality is the work of a lifetime. This is the project that never ends. And this is called being on the path to wisdom. It's really, really important. But some people are just unaware of how their behavior impacts others. And to me, it's really sad to see someone like that, especially if they're older and they've never yet figured this out. Maybe they're a D and people look at them and just say, you're just an unreasonable tyrant. And they've never figured that out. And they alienate relationships around them. And they've never learned to control that aspect of their personality. Or an I, and people just say, that person's just a flake. They never complete what they said they would complete. They're never on time. Or the person is an S, and they're viewed as someone who is a pushover because they've just never learned to advocate for themselves and stand up for themselves. Or someone who's a C and is just viewed as impossibly picky. See, DISC tells us that you need to learn to control these things or they will control you. As my brother taught me, the difference between being a sage and being thought of as a fool is self-awareness. A sage is someone who says, hey, I've got honest weaknesses. I need to own them. I'm working on them, but sorry, I don't get it right every time. We all look at that person with respect. But a person who thinks they're amazing and doesn't even know what their areas of weakness are and never has tried to manage or control that area of life, we look at them. Those are the people that get laughed at behind their backs. So you need to learn to control aspects of your personality. Principle number 3, just make sure that your work matches your area of strength. Exhaustion and burnout don't actually come from working hard. That's what you'd expect. You work too hard and so you're burned out. But actually working hard at something that you love can be energizing. And you can come home after having put in a really hard day and feel on top of the world. No, exhaustion and burnout come when you start working in your areas of weakness. For instance, when a D is involved with people drama. Well, people drama is so illogical, it slows everything down. It wastes time and it makes a D crazy and it burns them out and it makes them feel exhausted and tired. Or when an I spends too much time in detail work. They know detail's important, they know it needs to be done, but actually grinding out the detail is exhausting to them. Or when an S is in a role where they deal with a lot of conflict. An S is not wired to deal well with conflict. They hate it. It's their biggest pet peeve. And in some cases, it's their worst fear. So if they have to be in conflict's way all day, they're wiped out when they get home at the end of the day. Or when a C is pushed to produce work that they don't feel proud of. Because a C is all about doing a really good job being recognized as the person who's competent. So It's not hard work that burns you out. It's working in your area of weakness from a personality perspective. When you're exhausted at the end of the day, it's probably because you've been working in your area of weakness. Think about that. When you come home and you're wiped and you don't want to talk to anybody, or you just want to sit down and watch Netflix, what have you been doing that day? Have you been working in your area of strength? Probably not. Probably you've been working in an area that is not a natural area of strength for you, but an area of weakness for you. On the other hand, when you feel energized and enthusiastic at the end of the day, you've been working in an area of strength. You've probably been working in an area where you scored either strong or very strong, one of the duties that correspond to those natural areas of strength for you. Because work doesn't burn us out, friends. What burns us out is working in areas of weakness. So you want to work in your areas of strength. It seems obvious, but how many of us actually do that through our day? Work on, not in, your areas of weakness. The more your job duties match your personality strengths, the happier and the more productive you'll be. So in my work as a coach, I work with fast-growing businesses, and by definition, just in the job that I do, I work with a lot of very successful people. And I've worked with people who are very wealthy, who have come from nothing, and who have made a lot of money, and more than that, made a lot of impact in the world around them. So they're what a lot of us would think of as very successful people. And they all have one thing in common. They've all found what they're great at doing, their natural area of strength, whether they know DISC or not. They've figured out what that is, and they've figured out how to spend about 70% of their day working in their area of natural strength. And they have to work on their areas of weakness too. But they work out of their strengths for most of their day, and then they just come in and they're much better competitors when they're competing with other people who are working in natural areas of weakness. So you have to find what that sweet spot is for you and spend most of your day doing what you're naturally good at. Seems obvious, doesn't it? Principle number 4, leopards don't change their spots, so learn to show grace to others. Here's a big secret and a big insight. No one is going to change very much. If you're in a relationship with a significant other, that person is going to look much the same in 20 years as they do today in terms of personality. The people that you work with, they're always going to be basically who they are, however long you end up working with them, because change is incremental. When people change for the better, they're just better versions of who they already are. We have this idea that, hey, we're going to show you DISC and you're going to go through this and you're going to be a new person, you're going to be different. And a C is going to finally become that S, and the D is finally going to become that I. It's not going to happen. You can't mentor that person into changing their personality type. You can't put them through courses so they change their personality type. They are who they are, and that is not really going to change. But here's the big secret. DISC helps you to learn to show grace to others, and this is when relationships are successful. DISC is not about, understand me. You can't deal with, you can't bring conflict to me because I'm an S. No, that's not what it's about. It's about, how do I be more effective with you? So if you're a D, how can I be more effective in speaking to you? If you're an I, how can I connect better with you? If you're a C or an S, how can I meet your needs? That's what it's really about. So it's about showing grace to each other. Okay, so as I mentioned, I've been married for 25 years. And we have a happy and successful marriage. And what we found is, what works is that we're still the same people. My wife is the same person as when we first met, when we were dating. I'm basically the same person, but we've got way more grace for each other. I understand what her needs are. And on my best days, I don't say to myself, how can she understand me? But on my best days, I say, how can I meet her needs? Because I know when I meet her needs, she's going to be happy and she's going to be the best version of her that she can be. So I'm really going to encourage you to use the DISC to say, how can I show more grace to the people in my life? Principle 5 says that your greatest strength is also your greatest weakness. Blind spots. Personality types are just two sides of a coin. I do a lot of interviewing, and I've interviewed many very senior people, highly educated, lots of responsibility, in their mid-40s, like they've been around for a while, they're not 20 years old. And one of the questions I always ask is, so what are your areas of weakness? What are things that you're not good at, that you shouldn't really be doing, that you should be delegating to others? What are some of those things? And more often than not, the person is genuinely stumped. And I know that because I say to them, I'm not asking to find out if you have weaknesses. I know you have them. I'm asking to find out if you have self-awareness. And still, they can't think of anything. They sit and puzzle and they say all the regular things like, oh, I work too hard, I care too much, blah, blah, blah. One guy said, I'm really bad at giving up. Yeah, but what are your weaknesses? What are things that you're not good at? And they can't think of them. Those are blind spots. If you display the strengths, you also have the weaknesses. If you're a high D, you've got all the strengths, you also display the weaknesses. And that goes for every personality category. The only thing is, you may not see them.